You're listening to the Sur5Vors Podcast, where every week we showcase survivors and their testimonies on past traumatic experiences. We also have our guest psychologist and lawyer to share thought-provoking information and comments on the case. Here's your host, Carmela Perez.
Good day! This week's episode of the Sur5Vors Podcast highlights sexual abuse. In the studio with us today, we are joined by our guest survivor, Mr. Forthy. Forthy, welcome to the show.
I am very glad to be here because we have a really important topic today. In light of spreading awareness on male sexual and assault, I will be sharing my part of the story. I'd like to admit, I'm a bit embarrassed when we first started putting this episode together. I thought to myself, is this a topic that we need to cover? Is it big enough? But then I realized that someone had to do something.
Thank you, Forth, for admitting that and for being willing to share your story. So may I ask, before everything happened, how was your relationship with your partner?
My relationship before experiencing the trauma was very good. I met my ex-boyfriend at work. He was handsome, charming, someone that could sweep you off your feet. He was also compassionate, and I could feel that he was a kind and caring guy. I thought, this guy is the one for me.
Wow! That sounds like every girl's dream. So when did things start changing?
It started in our second year together when me and a coworker became close friends. We started to eat lunch together and it caused me to spend less time with my boyfriend. This made my boyfriend really jealous, but he didn't say anything about it. One weekend, we drove to a mountain resort. We were hanging out in our room when he suddenly talked about the close friendship I had with my coworker. He was visibly mad and did not approve of such friendship. I thought it was just a cute act of protectiveness. But before I could say anything, he punched me in the face, pinned me down, and proceeded to make sexual advances against my will.
So what did you do after it happened?
After that trip, I didn't talk to him, but I could see that he was very sorry. He kept on insisting that he won't do it again, that he couldn't control his anger. He kept asking me for a second chance. He treated me like, for a lack of better term, a goddess. Bought me gifts and treats me in fancy restaurants to make up for that incident. But the second wave came by quickly. When I couldn't reply for hours because I was busy working, he got fiercely mad and showed up at my office demanding to see me. He threatened me in front of everyone. After that day, he would force himself to me almost every day for 6 months.
I'm sorry you had to go through all that, Forth. What was going through your head at the time?
Well, although I was traumatized, I still held onto the hope that yes, he really would change and that he isn't a violent person.
I understand where that's coming from, Forth. He did make you feel loved, but before those incidents, did he really show no tendencies of abuse?
At first, I didn't notice any red flags. He was a normal guy. He would always surprise me, give me gifts, and take me on trips. I knew that he really did love me despite the abuse. But as the relationship progressed, I noticed that he didn't like me going out with our other co-workers. He always kept me to himself. And whenever we would fight, he would manipulate the situation and put the blame on me. But other than that, he wasn't showing any signs of being violent.
So how did this trauma impact your life?
I was very depressed. I thought that my situation was hopeless. I couldn't open up to others in the fear that they would judge me. I didn't want to go out because I had lots of bruises on my face. I couldn't understand why I was in this situation. I kept on blaming myself for everything that was happening to me.
It must have been difficult to go on with your life normally. So how did you cope with that burden every single day?
I had a drinking binge for a month. I quit my job and just stayed at home. I thought the situation was hopeless until one day, I gathered up ample courage to say that enough was enough. I decided to get help, so I went to a psychiatrist for counseling and also enrolled myself in support groups.
I admire how strong you were in dealing with this adversity. This is probably one of the worst things that could happen to someone, let alone betrayed by someone you loved. Is there a message or something you'd like to say for people like you who are still fighting this battle?
Always remember that you are not alone. And please, do not hesitate to seek help. That's all for today. Thank you for this opportunity.
I am in awe and I am extremely grateful. Thank you for being an inspiration to many and a witness for the minority. the abused. Now calling to the show today, we have Dr. Sunshine and Attorney Sabal. Dr. Sunshine is a licensed psychologist and the Assistant Director of the Center for Behavioral Sciences at Vicente Soto Memorial Medical Center. And Ian is an attorney and associate professor in the University of San Carlos School of Law. Sunshine and Ian, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here. This has been a great platform to share my knowledge and to spread awareness.
I have here a few questions that most people are curious about. First, is it considered rape if they are in a relationship and have engaged in intercourse before?
Rape, by definition, is the use of physical force, deception, or threat of bodily harm. Even if the victim is in a relationship with the abuser, if no consent was given, it is still considered rape.
When and how is rape committed?
So, rape is committed when a man shall have a carnal knowledge of a woman under any of the following circumstances. Number 1, through force, threat, or intimidation. Number 2, when the offended party is deprived of reason or unconscious. So, for example, if the woman is blackout drunk. Number 3, by means of fraudulent machination or grave abuse of authority. And number 4, when the offended party is under 12 years of age or is demented, even though none of the circumstances mentioned above may be present. So rape is also committed by any person who commit an act of sexual assault by inserting his penis or any other instruments or object into another's mouth or anal orifice.
Dr. Sunshine, are rapes within a relationship common?
Well, yes, statistically speaking, only 20 to 30% of all rape cases have the rapist as someone the victim did not previously know. Statistics shows 9% of rapists are the victim's spouse or ex-spouse, 10% are partners or ex-partners, and 16% are by other relatives.
But doesn't rape usually happen between a male and female, given the difference in strength, making it easier for the male to overpower the female?
This is one of the most common misconceptions or myths about rape, that it can only happen to women. Sexual assault happens to people of all ages and races in all socioeconomic groups. Though statistically speaking, women are the leading victims in sexual assault cases.
In your professional and honest opinion, why do rapists rape? Is it because they cannot control their sexual urges?
No. Contrary to popular belief, there is no such thing as an uncontrollable sexual urge. There are a plethora of different reasons as to why rapists rape, but the most common type is caused by anger. This constitutes 40% of all rape cases. In these cases, the rapist is angry or depressed and is often seeking retribution, usually battering the survivor and using more physical force than is necessary to overpower him or her. Another type of rapist is the opportunistic rapist, which accounts for 30% of rape cases, and this type of rape is impulsive and may occur in the context of an existing relationship. This is what is often termed as date rape or acquaintance rape. For the case of Porthy, I believe this is an example of a power rapist. The rapist does not actually intend to inflict harm on the victim, but rather to possess or control in order to gain sexual gratification. The assaults are usually premeditated, repetitive, and may increase in aggression over time.
I see. So, Attorney Ian, in our country, what law governs cases involving sexual abuse or assault?
So, in the Philippines, we have the Republic Act 8533 or the Anti-Rape Law of 1997.
So, what are the penalties for rape?
So, the punishment for rape is a case-to-case basis. But usually, convicted rapists are punished by reclusion perpetua or lifetime imprisonment.
Thank you for helping us shed light on this very deserving and marginalized population. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Sur5Vors Podcast. If you have any questions about the show, you can hit us up at survivors@mail.com.ph. Tell us what you like, what you don't, or what topics you would like to see. We'll see everybody next week.
You've been listening to the Sur5Vors Podcast, the internet's newest and largest independent mental health website run by mental health professionals. Overseen by Dr. Phoebe Bacalso-Letaba, the Sur5Vors Podcast offers trusted resources and quizzes to help answer your questions about mental health, personality, psychotherapy, and more. Thank you for listening, and please share this information with your friends, family, and followers. See you around next week.